Very good morning. You're very welcome along to Tuesday mornings, OTB AM's Tuesday. Did I get that right? I did think I did. 23rd of May. Very good morning to all of you out there tuning in as per usual in your usual places. OTB AM with Gillette Labs. Get the ultimate shave or your money back. Neon Night Edition available now. Colm Boohig, good morning.
Shane, great to have you back. I missed you.
I missed you too, as always. And Johnny Ward, very good morning to you. How are things?
Good morning. What happened yesterday morning?
Farcical.
Go on.
It was more so the night before, but car issues. So people think because I'm from Monaghan, you're obviously a car man, and because I watch Formula 1 maybe as well, leads into this false narrative of my life. But I was got my car back eventually from my mechanic Finbar, shout out, yesterday evening in Smithborough in County Monaghan, and I had a few issues the night before, so it wasn't fun. Now it's not, the damage isn't as bad as I had originally feared, so he's sitting there telling me about different things that were wrong with it, and it's straight over my head. I think you're either a car person or you're not. I really love my car and I look after it, but in terms of the specifics and the mechanics of vehicles, I wouldn't be the strongest. I don't know about you lads.
Marion McKeown had an interesting article in the Business Post on Sunday about the car ownership in the States and how cars have become a lot more expensive in the States. The average price for a new car in the States now is give or take $50,000.
Right.
And the average age of the car that you own in the States is something like 14 years old.
Jeez.
Like old. But it's kind of like a part of... Like I've never driven. Like I used
really?
to... No, so I used to, when I was in... before I came to college, when I was, 17 and then 18, I would have had a provisional license and I drove at home. But when I came up to Dublin, I was thinking this the other day, so I'm up in Dublin 23 years now. I've never had a car.
Right.
So it is never in my head. It's like if you've never had a pint, you don't know what you're missing it, because you don't know what it's like to not. You never have to give up because you don't know it. Like, so it's just never come into you. But if I have an issue in Dublin, like in terms of how I'm going to get to somewhere, it's just not in my head, so it's not a problem, if that makes sense.
I love the simplicity of having a car. Simplicity, I say simplicity. When things happen to the car and you have to...
It wasn't simple yesterday morning.
It wasn't simple. And it's not always simple, but it's handy. I love driving.
But it's incredibly inefficient when you think about it, right? Because cars, give or take, spend 95% of their time doing nothing, right?
Yeah.
So how have we allowed this to happen, where, like, should we not have a system where you can get a taxi straight away cheaply, or you can rent a car cheaply, because 95% of the time cars are doing nothing? Like, that, it couldn't get less efficient.
Well, the problem is the public transport from, say, for example, from Monaghan, from where I'm from, isn't fantastic.
There's no option for you.
Like, I literally have to...
Can I just bring you through my personal heartbreak about the whole story?
Yeah.
You had to
Shane, myself and Ger on Sunday were chatting through, like, very excited about the performance rankings, weren't we? And the show in general at large. Everyone was happy out, and then I wake up to a red light emoji, which, in fairness to you, was a great warning about what was to come.
What time was that?
5:20 a.m. And I sent it he sent it when it actually happened, but of course that's when I saw it.
Yeah.
And I actually stared at it in disbelief for a few seconds, thinking, I don't actually think this is real.
That's
it's not the same without you.
That was the purpose of the red light. I was like, this is pretty serious.
An audience needs to see this immediately.
Yeah, this is.
And look, we suffered for it. No Shane Hannon of a Monday morning.
People.
But thankfully, look, we have you back, and not just back, but in the big chair.
In the big chair. I mean, what a way to start the week, lads. Yeah. Well, for me to start my week. Sorry to everyone who's already had the week. Big game last night.
Yeah, JP Wright, voice actor, straight in there in the live comments. Newcastle back in the big time, first time in 20 years after a 0-0 draw at Leicester last night.
Amazing what some Saudi money can do.
Well, it's amazing what Eddie Howe can do.
I'm only being a little bit...
It's not a great squad on paper.
It's not. Eddie Howe has done a fantastic job.
It's a good team. It's a good squad.
Yeah. To get Champions League, I mean, that's...
Yeah, first time since Bobby Robson days.
Is it right?
Yeah, 2002, 2003. When they had a really good side. Remember that? The Craig Bellamy and Kieran Dyer and Shay Given.
Oh, yes. And they were all over Leicester, like 77%.
Destroyed them.
It's only like at the end, Castagna has the shot and you're like...
It's one of those old games of Football Manager, Championship Manager, where you're dominating the opposition, except in the game, Castagna's volley at the end would have gone in and you would have exited the game without saving it, because that can't be real. It has to be a glitch in the system. But Newcastle hit the woodwork 3 times last night. They've actually hit the woodwork 24 times all season, which is 5 more than the nearest side.
Is it?
Yeah. So imagine how much better they could have been again. Like, they have third in their grasp. They could finish fourth. It doesn't matter these days because the top four automatically qualify. Back in the day, it was top two, and third and fourth had to do a qualifier. But it's relevant now. So hence the celebrations last night. But a 0-0 hammering it was for Newcastle over Leicester. And for Leicester, you fear for them. But it's all very finely poised for the final day of the season. 4:30 kick-off this Sunday. I love when they all start at the same time. I love the kind of no homework Friday feeling of these last games of the season where it's always sunny.
Yeah.
Teams wearing their new jerseys. It's all a bit of a laugh. Just kind of like a game of Astro. No one's really defending.
Yeah.
A lot of 3-2s, 4-3s.
Go for broke.
A lot of games you never see. They're like mythical. You never see them once. Like if there's nothing to play for. Like what's the 10th game on Match of the Day? But there are going to be 3 brilliant games. And also, if Manchester United don't get the job done against Chelsea on Thursday, that could also go down to the wire between United and Liverpool for the final Champions League spot. But you have it all poised with Everton against Bournemouth, Leicester against West Ham, and Leeds against Tottenham. So they're all at home.
So Everton 33 points, Leicester 31 and Leeds 31. So we were just saying this morning, so for Everton, even though they're 2 points ahead of the drop zone, a draw wouldn't necessarily do against Bournemouth, because if Leicester were to beat West Ham, their superior goal difference would keep Leicester in the Premier League. So
their goal difference, Leicester's -18, which is far superior to the other two. Everton -24, and Leeds were really in trouble, -27. So Leeds are 19th, Leicester 18th, Everton 17th.
Jesus, that's going to be tense. So who are you backing? Deitch?
I think Everton will stay up. Well, look at the size they're playing. So Bournemouth, nothing to play for, but that could help them.
Yeah,
they express themselves. West Ham have a cup final coming up, Europa Conference League against Fiorentina, so they could field a relatively strong team. Could be competition for who's going to start that match, so that could be an interesting game. Spurs, you just have no idea what they're going to do. Haven't a clue.
How can you trust Spurs?
It does statistically make a huge difference that a team has nothing to play for. It's a massive difference. Even last night, Newcastle, like I actually backed Newcastle to win the game last night. Didn't see the game because on a flight. It was just like but they didn't need to win the game. And that ultimately at the end you could see they were kind of like they were happy enough with the draw. And in Leicester's first shot and goal was after about 85 minutes or something, literally first shot of any description. But the fact that, as Colm says, the 3 teams the opposition have effectively nothing to play for is massively important in the narrative.
It's mad that all those 3 teams are at home. The relegation teams
and they could all win. Like the 3 of them could all win, because it is junk time. West Ham aren't going to be anywhere near their best. It's simple as that.
To be fair, if Leicester and Leeds both win, they still can and still go down. That'll only put them to 34 points off the magical barrier of 40 that does not exist. That seems to be the one to keep teams up. But it would be interesting if Leicester and Leeds lost all of a sudden. Everton stay up on 33 points. So
I don't mind if Leicester go. I'd rather see Everton stay up. I assume. I'm just going into this assuming Leeds are going to go.
I was chatting to a couple of Liverpool fans last week who wanted Everton to stay up. I know there are plenty of Liverpool fans that'll probably enjoy the prospect of Everton being relegated, but I think from a rivalry perspective,
Jamie Carragher said,
the Irish people.
Yeah.
See, if you're an Irish person, really Everton was never. I was a Liverpool fan. Everton was never a thing.
If you're Scouse, maybe. You're more.
And
Carragher is an Everton fan growing up, and he said it would be pretty funny. He said if they got relegated, and that's Carragher saying.
How can he say that?
And he said just for a year, and then they come back the following season with the new stadium. And then they replenish. He said if he could guarantee it was only for a year that they were in the Championship, he'd take it.
But he supported Everton growing up, and he thinks it'd be funny if they went down.
Do you know, it's strange as well, like the Manchester City and Newcastle thing, where you have all this petrostate money, I derive no enjoyment from what Man City are doing, but in fairness to Newcastle, Eddie Howe really hasn't actually splashed that much cash. It's a football mad place. The atmosphere in St James's is still amazing, and he's done an amazing job. He really has. And where do they go from here now?
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Very far.
Are they the new power? Who finishes? My brother reminded me actually at the weekend that apparently I said Liverpool would struggle to finish in the top 4 after the Fulham game on day 1.
Right.
I don't remember saying that, but thanks to him, because it's probably the only thing I've literally gotten right all season.
Yeah.
Where do Liverpool go relative to Newcastle now? Newcastle's going to become such an attractive proposition for players.
Absolutely, yeah.
Eddie Howe is an exceptionally good manager.
That's the thing, and you say correctly that Newcastle haven't really splashed the catch too much, and neither have Manchester City in recent times. The difference is with those two sides versus the other 18 is that they can spend all the money they want to if they want to, if they choose to. So they always have that in the back pocket. They can always panic by Robinho style if they wanted to, but they don't need to. I mean, Eddie Howe, I think he prefers that type of squad, and they could build on that a little bit more. But those players are all like it. They have such an attractive squad even from a business point of view for the owners, because there's a lot of players there that you could sell on for decent money if you wanted to
make a bit of profit.
It's a decent age squad as well.
Yeah,
there's a few areas that need to strengthen.
100%. The Bruno Guimaraes tackle last night on Samari.
Well, it just kind of goes back to the whole lack of transparency in the decision making.
So he gets a yellow.
He gets a yellow. Like, if you look at it technically, like it studs onto the knee and it stays there for a split second longer than it needs to.
It definitely stayed there.
Yeah, and it's kind of a red card 101 if you were to do an examine who the players that should get sent off for tackles. It goes back to the problem, we don't really know why they decide certain incidents. And look, I'm the biggest purveyor of players need to show way more respect to referees, and I hate when players go into refs' faces and F and blind them out of it. On the other side, I think refs need to communicate better
with players. No,
with the
with the VAR.
Well, you see, I always compare it to rugby unfavourably in that the communication rugby is fantastic. There's still problems the odd time with players and refs, but generally speaking, the ref explains the decision, we all hear it. And then the player accepts it, even if they disagree with it.
We spoke to Finney Perth about this last week in the League of Ireland. Every week we seem to be talking about refereeing decisions.
It's not that interesting a topic either. Do you know what I mean? But it is. But you're right. It's like people are obsessed with it.
But that mutual respect thing is important, because obviously referees and players both swear back at each other in every league. That's just what happens.
But I understand from when you're actually at the stadium, you're watching the matches. It doesn't make a difference. You're not going to be able to hear it anyway. But I just think there's a long way to go in football between the relationship. There's a lack of trust, which I think is a good example there in that incident where Guimaraes could have been sent off and he wasn't, and we're guessing as to why.
You'd like to hear the
next
logic.
Morning.
Would you like to hear the logic in an NFL sense, where the referee presses a little button and speaks to the stadium and tells everyone, holding, Guimaraes, not dangerous, yellow. I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, but
the referees always seem to be mid-70s or really old in the NFL. It's proper, they're real old school. They've been there, and you just wait for those boos to come in from the. But it's strange in the sense of the last 12 months we've had the World Cup with what seemed to be an experiment on at a time, an absolute experiment, and then you've had a complete change in the way VAR is implemented since sort of the end of last season at the top level, and it's kind of strange now, because Liverpool had a goal disallowed on Saturday. I watched the game against Villa, and it was a really tough call, and it kind of justified VAR in a sense. But when the ball went over the line, it was as if the fans were kind of celebrating but half not celebrating, and it took probably the guts of 2 minutes for it to be disallowed. And I'm just that spontaneity being gone is not fun, really.
No,
I don't know,
sucked the joy out of sport in some ways. But then again, if they come to the right decision at the end of it, then that's fine. JP Wright, voice actor, Shane really needs to work on the American accent. No better man to tell me that. I thought my American accent wasn't too bad. I didn't give it my best there, but
I'd like to hear some samples from JP Wright. Could you send us in a few?
100%. Let us know what I'm doing wrong there.
Can you add on your point there, Johnny? At the moment, I think Klopp is still a more attractive proposition for most players than Newcastle.
How
long will that continue?
We'll talk about Caoimhin Kelleher a bit. The Klopp rebuild is definitely interesting. I didn't expect. I actually thought he could be gone at this stage. Or certainly gone at the end of the season. But in fairness to Liverpool, they finished the season well. I still think there's so many holes in that team, though. So many holes, particularly midfield. I mean, 4 players are going? 3 of them are midfielders.
Bit of turnover. It feels like the start of a new era at Liverpool in a weird way, even though Klopp's still there obviously, but just in terms of the turnover personnel, when you see the likes of Firmino leaving, you're like, this is the end of an era in some senses. You mentioned Caoimhin Kelleher, Johnny. We might as well touch on that story, because I know Andy Jones is writing about it in The Athletic as well. I couldn't believe when you said this morning, Colm, that 3 games this season he's played.
2 in the EFL Cup, 1 in the FA Cup, and I suppose more appropriately only 20 competitive games since 2019.
That's featured in, isn't it? And they're competitive games. A lot of them are kind of competitive, but they're competitive with a low C.
He's 24 now. He had that amazing moment in last season's EFL Cup finals, scoring the winning penalty, which is incredible. What a penalty! I mean, and he's such an interesting background. I mean, a player who played as an outfielder for quite a long time before he transitioned into a goalkeeper, for Ringmahon Rangers and Cork. It was only because they were short of someone in goal. And he was a goal scoring forward for his club. Like, hence the penalty against Chelsea in last season's decider. So
the contrast with Bazunu is so like it's so pronounced. Like, who wakes up happier this morning? Bazunu's like, we've gotten relegated. My stock has kind of gone down a bit.
But Bazunu's out of the team now. Alex
he's out of the team.
Yeah.
He's like, he hasn't played for what, 4 or 5 games. McCarthy himself hasn't been great either. Like,
he wasn't great for Ferguson's first goal.
No, he wasn't great, and he gave the ball away prior to that. But Kelleher's stock has just been kind of static. Where I honestly don't know how good he is. I really couldn't tell you.
That's what you're saying beforehand. It was like, he's kind of like a mythical figure, isn't he? Like, we just don't have enough sample size of Kelleher.
It's like Shane's car, actually.
Yeah, a mythical figure.
Haven't seen much of it.
I don't know. Kelleher, like as we were saying, Klopp was saying recently, it'll take an extraordinary offer to.
As recently as last Friday.
Yeah,
you know, he's not worth extraordinary money. It's not. It's not there for Kelleher to worth a lot of money.
Extraordinary.
He's played 20 games since 2019.
Yeah.
What has he done to suggest that he's worth extraordinary money?
As Kathleen pointed out beforehand as well, like, that quote could be very deliberate by Klopp saying it will take an extraordinary offer, i.e. he is for sale, so if you want to pay for him. But then, as Emma pointed out beforehand, it's very tough to get a quality backup goalkeeper who is willing to stay there and learn from a world class goalkeeper.
It's different to the likes of, say, Manchester United, who have Jack Butland, who's an older, more veteran goalkeeper as the number 2, probably quite happy at this stage of his career to get the odd game. Kelleher's 24, like.
It just goes like, I mean, do you really need a quality second goalkeeper? Like, Neil Warnock used to be a big man for having no goalkeeper on the bench. Phil Jagielka used to be going in the sticks for Sheffield United.
Too far the other way.
But like, you're never really going to hit that sweet spot of having an absolute quality, proven goalkeeper who's on the bench for the entire season, who's more than happy to do so, is still motivated not just by the money but the opportunity, and that's why the Caoimhin Kellehers of the world are so rare. But like,
by any metric, what's he worth? Like, if Liverpool are in a bargaining position, it's impossible to say.
In this day and age, you don't know. Like, is he worth 20 million?
If he went for 10, I wouldn't be surprised. And if he went for 35, I'd be like, yeah, fair enough. Because you're buying the potential. Like, he's 24, which in goalkeeper terms is younger.
But you can't pay 35 million for a goalkeeper. Like, what has he actually done? Like,
I'm only saying 20 million.
Moments.
He's only 20 million because of his age profile. He's 24,
and that's still young to be a keeper.
Yeah, but you don't just splash the cash because a player's young. Like,
but
he has proven
he's shown in big games as well. In the very admittedly few big games that he's played for Liverpool,
but even for Ireland as well. Like,
he's really good at the ball at his feet. And I think the one thing with the Liverpool situation, I've always defended Kelleher. I think in terms of his development, being coached at Liverpool must be so good for his development. And I know he hasn't been in that many pressure situations, but he's probably developed into a very good keeper, particularly with the ball on the ground. Like, he's better than Bazunu, 100% better than Bazunu with the ball at his feet, and that's massive. Like, so he has all that going forward. He has the confidence of Jurgen Klopp, and he has the confidence of Jurgen Klopp. I just don't know how good he is. I honestly don't, because I've seen. Like,
well, we do have a little bit of.
You mentioned the Carling Cup
examples.
Yeah,
the League Cup, but also, like, I've seen moments where he's very solid, and actually don't. And I do mean that as a compliment, because you don't say that much about modern goalkeepers. He's
solid
in that his handling is actually very good.
Do you remember one like remarkable save he's made for Ireland yet?
But that's what I mean. I don't think
he's been called into
it. But I think his anticipation is such that he doesn't need to make remarkable saves. Like, I say, a modern goalkeeper now, cross will come into the box, fits it away, could easily catch it, fits it away. Now, that itself is effective because you're fitting the ball up 40 yards up the pitch. But Kelleher, there's a different style to him where I suppose it's kind of GAA related a bit in that he's catching the ball very solidly and doesn't need to do anything extraordinary, which kind of seems to match his personality and demeanour. Very calm, gives very little away.
Well, I said it after.
Atypical for a goalkeeper.
It is. I was behind that goal when Ireland beat Latvia 3-2 in that friendly where Caoimhin played recently, just before the French game, and like, I don't think Caoimhin could have done anything about the Latvia goal. Certainly one of them was a screamer.
One was a deflection.
But I remember his footwork wasn't great
for the screamer.
Yeah. He didn't get over fast enough. I think he went with his wrong hand as well. Me saying as the expert, like, but it looked like he could have gone with his nearer hand.
My issue with Caoimhin that day from watching him behind the goal in the first half was there wasn't much in terms of communication. He wasn't as vocal as I'd like a goalkeeper to be.
All right,
even in Sunday League level, you want a goalkeeper who's
annoying you,
wrecking your head.
You don't.
Oh well, not sorry, but
those keepers.
You don't want it, but it's helpful.
It actually helps. As long as I think it helps if you're a defender.
It depends what they're saying, but yeah.
True, yeah.
The other thing you should say is, like, he's been very unlucky that Alisson hasn't been unlucky, if that makes sense. Kelleher could, by the grace of whatever you believe in, had a lot longer run of games, and Klopp, I think, would have entrusted him. He would have. So he was probably gambling on, I'm going to get a really good chance here. Didn't quite happen for him, but I think he does need to go now. I really do.
He probably was gambling on Alisson having a poor season or a few mistakes, but he's arguably been Liverpool's player of the season.
Alisson's had ropey spells at Liverpool, but this season he hasn't. Like, he lost his dad as well, and he came through that, and this season he's been outstanding, like, in a very, very ropey defence at times.
Put it this way, if Alisson was to leave Liverpool suddenly, I don't think Klopp would make Kelleher the number one. Yeah. I still think
I tend to agree with that.
And if that's the case, then he does need to go, unfortunately. But his education has been phenomenal.
Yeah, 100%.
Playing for one of the best managers, and you're under one of the best goalkeepers.
Yeah,
but I suppose he has to graduate at some point.
See when he decides to leave. If he decides to leave, that's the purpose of that piece in the Athletic, by the way, that Caoimhin Kelleher appears himself ready to move, albeit Klopp saying that'll take
sorry, you imagine when he signed that deal. There's some understanding with Liverpool that they're not going to stand his way if he gets whatever Klopp says. I mean, let's be a little bit fair to the player here. He's been a good servant. He hasn't jumped ship. He's been a loyal player who hasn't been playing. And if somebody comes in, I mean,
Brighton seems to be one of the teams that's just near mentioned.
Pretty cool. Just like, the Brighton Irish Revolution and all that.
Shout here on YouTube, Kenny the Dad suggesting Nottingham Forest is an option for Caoimhin Kelleher if Keylor Navas moves on, which he might do.
Possibly, yeah.
And was it Brian here as well in the comments? Bazunu stock has tanked. Big summer for Kelleher's Ireland prospects. Bazunu and Kelleher, like, there'll be, brothers in all of this.
Yeah. Because they're both having a poor enough time.
Zuantanehu.
Oh, that's the Shawshank Redemption reference.
That's what they'll do, Don't know where Gavin will be like, I'll see you there. And Caoimhin will be coming up with a bag, be like, Gavin, I'll come back again.
Red is somehow...
That's the place in Mexico where they decided to meet on the beach.
I was wondering about that.
It's a bizarre analogy.
I wondered about that.
That scene.
He says it once to him.
Yeah.
Once only.
And he still remembers.
And it's like, I remember that,
Sorry, he said it once only. We see in the movie, they don't show everything in the movie. So there's loads of moments where they talk in the movie that we don't see. Like,
let's assume.
I mean, they're in jail for about 3 decades together. It's a 2-hour movie or whatever it is. Like,
you've got a point.
Say what today? It begins with Z as well. Like, so.
Got a very.
That is a bizarre.
That's what they'll be doing. Yeah.
Okay, but
no, they'll be united there.
But
stick with it.
Which
don't
beach
worry.
is it? Bettystown. What beach is there? What's the Zed Waltanehu for?
Stick with it
for Ireland. What beach are Bazunu and Kelleher going to be? I don't know. This is we've gone too far maybe.
But they'll eventually be. Like, God, what a ride that was. What a ride that was.
It's a good little documentary. The two of them meeting together on the beach.
Isn't it? Yeah. It's the Sexton and Raj of the football era.
Yeah. One of them's on a boat waving like.
Yeah. You know this when I'm talking about here the Sexton documentary about 10 years ago when their time in France coincided and they had to carpool into training. Sexton and Raj.
Oh yeah.
And they became buddies.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, by the way, that Bazunu and Kelleher aren't friends.
I'm sure they are.
But it's also Ireland. Like, it's, with all due respect, it's you're playing sporadically for your country. You're playing for your club.
It's true.
Every week. And Kelleher has had Irish opportunities. Like, say what to Neo.
Yeah, what a reference. Yeah. Anyone let us know what's your favourite quote from Shawshank Redemption? What's your favourite scene?
Oh, we'll be here all day.
It's every GA player in the country's favourite movie.
Okay, I'm not even going to comment on that. That actually makes sense. Yeah, no comment. You're supposed to be the overseer of the show. Yeah.
It's an inside joke. The Ireland women's national team are going to play their first ever game at the Aviva Stadium. This was announced yesterday as well, against Northern Ireland. So this is the opening UEFA Nations League game, Group B1. This is going to be on Saturday 23rd of September, 1 o'clock kickoff. So it's the first game after the World Cup in Australia, New Zealand. Of course, they've got those friendlies at Tallaght Stadium against France and Zambia before the World Cup. I mean, it's exciting. Good that the Irish women's national team are getting the opportunity to play in the Aviva Stadium. I think they're going to have one of the tiers open, possibly. An earlier kick-off to bring more fans down from Northern Ireland as well for it. You could get a decent crowd. Especially, it'll probably be dependent as well. They're probably leaning into the World Cup and that post-World Cup good feels hopefully to get a decent crowd. But yeah, Ireland-Zambia 22nd of June and then Ireland-France on the 6th of July. France 5th in the world ranking, so those are the two games.
Yeah, it's such a shame. Well, it's a little bit of a shame that those two games, or at least the France game before the World Cup, isn't at the Aviva Stadium. But look, Tallah's been very good to the Irish team. and like there'll still be a huge crowd at both Zambia and France games, but like you say, Sinead, they're 5th in the world, France. It'd be great to kind of attract a big crowd at the Aviva, one last send off before they fly to the other side of the world and start their inaugural World Cup campaign. But look, it's something also to look forward to at the other side of the World Cup, because let's be positive here, it could be a very good World Cup for Ireland.
Touch wood.
And the homecoming then against Northern Ireland, First Nations League game at the Aviva Stadium, something to look forward to in September.
Get a bit of an atmosphere.
I think both like Vera and Stephen Kenny, just in terms of timing and the games Ireland have next month, it is quite complex. Like when you've lads who are finished the season, some of them are mentally finished the season like for a few weeks, and then they have to prep for this game in intense Greek heat, probably. Like, do you know what I mean? And it's like, even though they're in Greece, in their own mind, they're like, I want to go on holidays now. Players have ridiculous rosters now. I want to have my holidays. I want to get off. Yet Kenny has to kind of keep them in a happy place for what's a massive game. Like, and with Vera Pauw as well, the timing coming out of the season, we spoke about this, like coming into the World Cup, it's very, very difficult. Like, and if you look at things in hindsight afterwards, you'll say, well, that would have been something that's really hard to manage. Like, so especially going down to Australia as well.
Should mention that international against the North will be touched on in the Coigig pod, which is out this morning. There's also an exclusive interview, very exciting this, by the way, with the WSL Player of the Year nominee, Manchester United's Ona Batiai, which is really, really pertinent at the moment, because trying to decipher whether she'll end up at Manchester United or Barcelona or somewhere else next season. So certainly an interview that a lot of people are looking forward to. So the Coigig pod out this morning in all the usual places.
Maybe she'll end up and say what's an ale.
Well, someone here suggested, is Mark Travers the prison warden?
Oh, yeah.
What was his name?
JP's on the form here. What, the prison warden?
Yeah.
Warden.
He sneaks it. I remember the scene where Andy Dufresne sneaks into the office and plays the song.
Yeah.
It's like Kelleher would sneak into the office and play You'll Never Walk Alone or something off the speakers.
I think it'd be more of a Bazunu thing to do.
Maybe a Bazunu thing to do.
Yeah. And like if you I don't know if the three of them had some sort of challenge, like the guy who had to, forfeit or who lost would have to just go through like a hell of a amount of shit for like a long time and
clean on the other side.
Yeah.
So I don't know how he built that tunnel.
It's pretty incredible. Started off with
I know it is incredible. I mean, it's borderline unbelievable that you'd be able to do that.
I almost say it's unbelievable. You almost say it's like
it's so
fiction.
clean.
Yeah.
It's clean. It's a move. I remember when I was like used to collect match programs as a kid, and like you'd have a Q&A with the player of whoever it was. What's your favourite movie? Shawshank Redemption must have been. I'd say about 66% of the answers. Like
I know, and like it's very predictable, but it's outstanding.
Boring answer, but it's a brilliant movie.
Just one more there. John Daly, full-time appointment.
Yeah, like it's strange the way things work. John Daly was brought in by Tim Clancy with the view to being his assistant, but also John Daly would have told Tim Clancy, I want to be a full-time manager, but not at St. Pat's. I mean, but I suppose it's an unwritten understanding, because I'm at this point there are a lot of exciting young managers in the League of Ireland, but they can't all succeed because there literally just isn't the options for them to succeed. You have 4 places in Europe, you have 1 team winning the league, yet you have all these clubs kind of battling for that, and Tim Clancy was sort of the first. Colin Healy's gone as well, but Tim Clancy was the first sort of casualty. It was interesting. I spoke to John Daly after the Shamrock Rovers game last week, where he made the point that Pat sort of let Clancy go, or whereas it was supposed to be mutual, and apparently they did kind of have a conversation. Right. But we'll figure out more down the line what actually happened there. But I know past managers have found the club not the most straightforward to work at. That's definitely true. But John Daly has gone in there now with his eyes wide open. He knows how the club works. He knows the potential of it. Great crowds at Pat's. It's in Dublin. There's a great vibe around the club. I think their training facilities are good. And I watched them against Rovers last week. They were really, really good for much of the game, and I think John's family is still living in the UK, I think.
Right.
So he spent time in Sweden and the UK with a view to this. He's a hard enough guy to really get a handle on. I've only spoken to him a couple of times. Very, very mannerly, nice guy. Quite intense, I think, and it was interesting. He, like, after the loss to Rovers, he called out one of the defenders like by name,
right?
Which I think is interesting, because that's kind of an Eddie no for me. So he's not afraid to take any crap, but the players seem to have bought into him at a very early stage, and I wish him the best. Big job, and yeah, he's gone in with his eyes wide open anyway. But like you see, I mean, that some of the young players Pats are bringing through are outstanding quality. Like, should be in England except for Brexit, and that's a fascinating aspect of it as well. well.
Will Derry win the league?
I think Shamrock Rovers will win the league, but Derry have made it interesting. They've had a couple of injuries, serious injuries, that have curtailed them. But I mean, I back Shamrock Rovers to beat Drogheda on Friday. Drogheda had 2 points from their last 21. Drogheda beat them, and you see in this league that you can't take your foot off the gas. Rovers were very good against Pats, won on Monday, and then lost at home to Drogheda, who are effectively relegation candidates. So it's a tough league. I think Rovers have the quality though, and the squad and the know-how, but it's a 2-horse race.
Before we finish up, we'll be moving to James Tracy and the Leinster reaction from the Heineken Champions Cup final defeat to La Rochelle at the weekend. But I did want to mention a bit of cycling. I know Shifty Lad in the comments was asking about the Giro. Eddie Dunbar, by the way, Cork man. They're all from down in Cork now. Call him the great cyclist. Currently in 8th place in the Giro, so he's only 3 minutes and 40 seconds behind the French race leader Bruno Amirai. So the 3-week Giro heading into the final 6 days from today, looking to become only the 3rd Irishman to finish in the top 10 in the Giro after Stephen Roach won the course in 87. Dan Martin took 10th a couple of years ago. So it's really, really heating up in the Giro d'Italia. One of those sports cycling that hasn't got as much probably publicity in the last couple of weeks as it could have. Ben Healy won the stage last week. I was watching the Ross Talton live in Monaghan coming in. There was an unbelievable buzz in Monaghan, lads, the weekend for the Ross Talton, and it had almost gone under the radar for me. I forgot that it was coming in, and it was the second last stage, and
that's where you really were.
Yeah. Well, actually, it was Saturday. It was Saturday.
You hung on.
This is
watch the best bits.
Car disaster. But and again from Cork, Dylan Corkery, a 24-year-old from Banteer in County Cork, went into the final stage in 7th overall, 19 seconds down on the overnight leader Conor McGoldrick, ends up winning. I was keeping an eye out for James McEnany from Carrickmacross, the Monaghan cyclist from Monalty Cycling Club. But to see what the marshals do, the safety and the speed that they're going past. Darragh McKenna from the Emmy Vale Cycling Club looking after the safety of the marshals and riders. I was buzzing watching it. These lads go past you.
It's phenomenal, and I think the one thing that was great over the lockdown was that so many people took up cycling, and it's become Ireland has massive advantages when it comes to cycling that people don't understand.
The hills are just
the hills, from even say where I live now, you're at the bottom of a really, really nice climb in about 4 or 5k. The one negative of Ireland is it's quite windy, but other than that the conditions are excellent, and it's become a really, really cool thing now. I think we could become. I think a lot of young Irish cyclists are going to be born out of the last sort of few years.
Cycling Mecca.
Yeah, and we definitely underappreciate and then the scenery and all that, and the quality of the roads around the country and that, and then obviously you have Strava as well to compare yourself to your mate or whatever.
It's in Tour de France 1998. Prominent childhood memory. So I was laughing there. Tender Chicken 56 in the YouTube comments. Kelleher, get busy living, get busy dying on the bench in Liverpool.
Yes. That is the great quote, isn't it?
Why did you bring in Zay Watanabe, by the way?
It was a great. It was a great
into your head.
Fantastic.
A to Z.
We'll move on. 3 minutes past 8. Loads.
Interesting tool.
I don't know where that reference came from, but I'm here for it. We will talk Brighton and Evan Ferguson later in the show with Andy Naylor around 8:25 as well. We'll have the sports news. We'll have Grania Walsh, the Irish boxer, who's over in Poland at the moment. She'll be reflecting on Katie Taylor's defeat at the weekend. I just so naturally say Katie Taylor's win.
So much.
Well, it's usually what I'm saying.
On Katie Taylor, by the way, very brief. Katie Taylor usurping Sam Bennett for the Sports Person of the Year that year.
Yeah,
just shows how people are so utterly ridiculously blinkered by the power of, say, women's boxing versus professional cycling, which is insanely difficult. And he won he was his top sprinter in 3. He won the green jersey in the Tour de France, possibly won. He had an amazing year anyway.
Wouldn't have fancied
and
that
just because it was cycling, people didn't appreciate it. So hopefully that'll change.
Sure. George Dockrell as well, the Irish cricketer, will be on the show around 9:10 as well, talking mental health supports in cricket. Don't miss all the action in Rugby Daily today in our OTB Podcast Network, bringing you everything you need to know about rugby. It's all a partnership with Deliveroo. Deliveroo has some great bundles and deals, so open the app, make your choice and watch your rider come to you. Deliveroo Food Weekend.